So to begin with, the first thing is that HH bonds are worth face value. So when you cash or redeem an HH bond, that's how much it's worth. So if you have a $100 bond, when you redeem it, it's a $100 bond. And the reason that is because HH bonds are not accrual type bonds. Okay? For owning HH bonds, the primary bond owner, and when I say primary, I mean the first named owner on the bond, they received interest payments twice a year. So that's how interest is paid out on HH bonds. They're totally different than E, W, and I bonds. Okay? Again, the interest on HH bonds do not accrue. Okay? So now that we know that, we'll move along to the fact that the interest rate is sometimes confusing for a lot of people when they look at the HH bond interest rate. The HH bond interest rate is, well, keep in mind too, the HH bond is a 20-year bond. Regardless, it reaches maturity in 20 years. And what I mean by that, in 20 years, it no longer maintains any value. Okay, or no longer gains any value. Okay? So the first 10 years, the interest rate on the HH bond is 4%. The final 10 years, the interest on that bond goes to 1.5. Okay? And that's paid out twice a year on that bond. Okay? Now, something else to keep in mind about HH bonds. If you look on, and it's near the lower left-hand area, near the lower left area, if you look on that bond, you may see a dollar amount. If you see zero, that's great. But you may see a dollar amount that states deferred interest. Okay? And what that refers to, that doesn't apply anything to the value of the bond. And I think a lot of times people become confused in that. That deferred interest does not add value to the bond. Again, as I stated before, that the HH bond does not accrue. Okay? What that is, it refers to the purchaser. Because when that bond was purchased, previously before the HH, there was an E or double E bond. Okay? The original purchaser had a double E bond, and that bond was reaching maturity. And when a bond reaches maturity, you have to cash it and pay the interest on it. So at that time, the Treasury gave an opportunity for people to roll over that interest into an HH bond. And that's how those come about. So the purchaser would, let's say if the purchaser owed $8,000 on a double E bond. Okay? So what they did is, instead of paying on it, they rolled that $8,000 worth of interest into an HH bond. Or let's say that $8,000 into a $10,000 HH bond. So they rolled over the 8, and then they paid the remaining $2,000 out of pocket. Now you have an HH bond. So with that said, that means that when that HH bond is redeemed, taxes will have to be paid on the deferred interest because it was never paid on before. And that goes down to beneficiaries. Whoever ends up being the owner of that bond, that could be the beneficiaries, the second named owner, whoever decides to cash it, then there will be interest that, you have to pay interest on that amount. Okay? And in general, that's really it about HH bonds, and that's really what's important because these questions come up. And then one final note, too. Keep in mind that EE bonds and E bonds, if you can find one, local banks are willing to cash. HH bonds across the board, you're not able to cash those at your local bank. You have to mail them to the Treasury. And I have some other videos on my channel that kind of goes into detail on where to send bonds if you're planning to redeem. And that's it for this video today. That was just a briefer on HH bonds, and I'll have more to come. If you have any questions, make sure you subscribe and like. And if you have any questions, make sure to enter that below. And when I have a moment, I'll go over those. Well, thanks again, and have a great day.